Quick announcement, I've just confirmed today we are doing a little camping trip at the same place we did the gathering this year, near Glyndwr and Llan, well, near Llan. It's £3 per head per night. That includes, well, the firewood and everything, so hopefully you can all come. It's open to all, you don't have to have gone to the gathering or anything, so please come to that. Next week we've got a guy called Kevin Rowan Druitt, and he's going to be talking about Neolithic observatories, how you know all sacred sites, astronomical sort of charts and whatnot. It should be a very interesting one. There's a lot of that around here, as we know. Okay, so on to tonight. It's Frank Willis. He's going to be talking about music and the human soul. So I'm going to hand you over to Frank. Round of applause now.
You might not be clapping when I finish. But yeah, tonight is music and the human soul. So what I first talk about is what exactly music is. And basically music is a sound or a noise. And somebody could hear. But physics tells us that everything in the universe is on a vibrational level, right down to the atomic structure, and it vibrates. What music or noise does is alter the vibrational state, and that's what music is. Now, we're all aware of different types of music, and I personally cannot stand jazz music. It just, you know, 2 minutes of it and I'm going crazy. And I've always wondered why that was, why certain types of music affect certain different people. And over the years I've gone in deep into this, and I've experimented with different people as well, and I found that music comes from different cultures, different styles of music, and music affects people in different ways, and this is what I'm going to talk about tonight. I mean, my personal choice in music is rock music, heavy metal music, death metal, thrash metal. That is alright for me, but I also like classical music. And somebody once said to me, "Oh, that's such a diversity." And I said, no, if you break music structure down, you find that the two are very similar. And a lot of people have said to me over the years, "No, it can't be." Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend just a few nights ago. He's taking some exam at the university in classical music. And on Facebook he posted what he has to play. And I just posted by it's a nice bit of music, that will. Anyway, when he saw me the other night, he said, "I didn't realise you were into classical music." I said, "I love it. You know, sometimes I do go to classical music gigs." Anyway, well, next time there's one on, I want to come with you. I went, right. Anyway, he said, I've seen you're going to do a talk in Wrexham on music. And we started talking and got deep into it. We both came to the same conclusion. Him coming from a classical musician's training, Will is a damn good musician. He has played in rock bands, but his soul is with classical music. And he said, "Well, what's the key to it all?" And I said, "The key is the C note." And he went, "Why is that?" I said, "Whichever music you're playing, whichever culture it comes from, the C note will hit your chakras in your stomach or your sacral chakra." And he went, "Yeah, that's when I really feel happy, when I feel it there." He said, "Whatever I compose, whether it's rock music or classical music, if it feels right in the sacral chakra," he said, "I know it's right." And I said, "Yeah, but can you go with African music?" "Yeah, no." And I went, "Why is that?" He said, it just don't go with me. And the reason for that is, I'm sure all of you know, we do have the 7 chakras, which connect the aura with inside the body and the energy what goes inside. A lot of Africans, when they hear the drumming music of African music, they feel it in the sacral chakra. I was born in Africa, so I know that kind of music, but I can't get into it. I like the drumming, but the rest of it, no, it's not for me. So anyway, over the years, when I started investigating the different cultures, the conclusions I came to is, if you're African, you feel it. If you like Hispanic or Spanish, that type of music, they feel it there as well. And the Japanese and Chinese, when they're listening to their kind of music, they also feel it in the Danshan chakra. So there is a cultural difference, which is what the Americans twigged onto. You've all heard of Guantanamo Bay, where they took the Al-Qaeda terrorists to. What the Americans were doing, part of the PSYOPs program on them, they were playing Metallica to them 24 hours a day, knowing that it would disrupt the natural rhythm inside the body. Because if you listen to Arab music, well, if I do, it affects the heart chakra. So therefore it's not in contemplation with what I want or my body rhythm. And the American government knows this, so hence they were playing Metallica, which is rock music, but also like metal music. And what it was doing to them, it was disrupting the flow and driving them crazy, for much of a better word. Therefore, they were hoping to extract information out of them. And they were saying, we'll stop playing the music if you tell us what we want to know. And a lot of these so-called Al-Qaeda terrorists were just telling them anything so that they could stop the music. What I also uncovered was when America invaded Panama, they surrounded General Noriega's compound and again played Metallica music to him, driving him crazy, where he came out and just surrendered. So, you know, the Americans know that music affects you. So given this information, I started going more and more deep into what music is. And what I was finding out was music is a sound, or an ultrasound. And I'll give an example. It was about 6 years ago. I was doing a talk at the Probe conference, and there was a guy called Dean Warwick. He was talking there, and while he was on stage, he dropped down dead. I thought somebody had shot him, and I jumped up, had a look around. There was nobody moving. Everybody was in shock. That night, I was at home, and I thought, this is strange. I'm convinced that guy was assassinated, but I wanted to know how he was assassinated. And a guy I know from South Africa who deals in arms, I rang him up and I said, is there any way you can get hold of a weapon what can kill somebody but make it look like a heart attack? Which eventually the official version of Dean's death was he died of a heart attack. But Dean, he was talking like I am now, and he had one hand in his pocket, and he fell over and he was dead before he touched the ground. So for a heart attack to do that, I find that a bit hard. You know, a heart attack, you don't just die like that. It takes a few minutes if it's a fast one. So this guy gets back to me the day after, and he said, yeah, I can get you a weapon, and it's an ultrasonic weapon. He said it'll kill you, leave no marks, and it looks like you've had a heart attack. And I went, right. Now because Dean was ex-CIA, ex-New Zealand intelligence, what he was going to talk about at the Probe conference was he was revealing how the buildings at 9/11 were brought down by ultrasound. So that gives me a key to go a bit deeper into this. What I uncovered was in 1962, a French scientist was working on ultrasound, and in the laboratory, some people were getting ill, and he couldn't figure out why they were getting ill. Then he started raising the frequencies of these ultrasounds, and a big catastrophe happened where the building it was housed in just suddenly shattered and came down. After that, not much is written about it, but the Americans took him to America, and at Los Alamos they were still experimenting on ultrasonic weapons. What the Americans have today now are weapons which could knock airplanes out of the sky by ultrasound. They also have weapons which are used for crowd control, and if anybody's ever seen Alex Jones's video Loose Change, there's a brief mention of these ultrasonic weapons that the police are using on the crowd. They emit a certain frequency which calms the crowd down. Recently, about 6 months ago, there was a program called Future Weapons on TV, and I was watching it one night. Again, the military have developed a weapon using ultrasound but also microwave energy, where they aim it at a specific person, and that person starts to warm up and gets uncomfortable and they have to move. The police in America are using these weapons on the civilians in America to disperse crowds and quell riots. If the Americans are using them, then you'll guarantee our government's using them, or it's only a matter of time before they'll use them. We also, in this country, you can place a box on the side of your house, and if people gather around, this box gives off a certain frequency which is uncomfortable to human hearing, and it disperses crowds. That is being used now in this country. So that's basically what music is. It's a sound, and it's a sound which affects you. Excuse me. Now I'm going to go back in history, and you get different cultures which use music or sound to chant, knowing that it calms you down and brings you in touch with the Godhead, and it's used in meditation. I mean, it's an old cliche, but you've heard of Hare Krishna. I mean, my ex-wife used to say to me, "Who's Hare Krishna?" You know, but it's just a sound which Buddhists use in meditation to bring all the chakras into alignment and get in touch with the Godhead. Cultures all around the world use similar types of meditation and certain frequencies. Another one, famous one, is Om. If it's repeated and repeated, it affects your chakras and again gets you in touch with the Godhead in meditation. So you're bringing all that together and using it. So you add a bit of the rhythm to it. And my findings are that you can manipulate people through music. You can make people happy, you can make them sad. You can turn them into psychotic killers, which the Americans have been doing. I know they were doing it in Iraq, and I know they're doing it in Afghanistan, where if they've an area where there are known insurgents, they'll play certain types of music, and it's influencing people, where people become unstable and start killing each other. It's all part of PSYOPs, what the CIA are using. But they're also using it against us as civilians. And the first time I became aware of it was about 15 years ago in Northern Ireland. I went over there with my ex-wife to see my parents, and it was near Christmas time. We were walking around the village, and they had loudspeakers all over the village, and they were playing Christmas carols. And my ex-wife said to me, "God, isn't it just like Auschwitz?" I went, "What are you on about?" She said, "You remember that Schindler's List film? They were playing music to the Jews all the time." And that made me really think then about how we are manipulated through music. Dug deeper into it, yeah, the Jews were submitted to music. It was to subdue them, but also the Nazis were putting fluoride in the water, which also subdues you. So you get a combination of drugs put into the system and then hit them with music. You've got a subdued people, which the Jews were in Auschwitz. And amazingly, our government is doing it to us now. They're putting fluoride in the water, which we all drink out the tap. It subdues the mind. They're spraying us with chemtrails. Just last week, Germany admitted for the first time that spraying has been going on. And our government has admitted that since the Second World War up to the early 70s, they were spraying us. They won't admit any more than that, but it's obvious that they are spraying us with chemicals. One of the chemicals is barium. Barium does exactly the same as what fluoride does. It subdues your mind. It stops you from thinking and having free thought. So how do they add the music to it? Well, there's a whole music system, music industry out there. They're bombarding us with pop music. Now, pop music, in my opinion, is total crap. It's just a noise. There's nothing good about it. But if you start going subliminally into it, there's a lot of sublime messages there which are hitting young people. And I know this from personal experience with two of my daughters. They're into it. And I'll say, what do you get out of it? And they just say, "Oh, it makes me dance a bit." I'm like, "No, what do you get out of it?" "Oh, it makes me dance a bit." "All right, well, can you sit down and listen to a song and it makes you cry?" And they look at me like I'm an alien. I said, "No, listen to some old blues music or some rock music." "Oh, I don't want to listen to that, Dad." It's like, "Oh, just sit down and listen to it." And they've sat down and, "Right, what do you think after listening to that?" "Oh, I don't know, but I feel a bit weird in my stomach." I went, "Right, you're starting to learn what music is. What do you get out of your pop music?" "Oh, it just makes me want to dance a bit." I went, "All right, I could go with that." Said, "I've took E's, I've gone to raves, I've danced all bloody night long, but the day after I just think, what the hell was that music?" But I know the E was affecting me. So and they go, "Oh, you're just mental, Dad, you know, you're an old hippie biker, you know, just go away." But it just shows the example of how the pop music affects young people and just brainwashes them into a trance where they're not even thinking, they're not feeling. And that's where the government wants these people. So you go deeper and deeper into the music industry and you get people like Stock Aitken and Waterman, who are the frontage of the government, who have the protégés like Kylie Minogue, and they just pump out trash which brainwashes people. So then when you get people who are into heavy metal, rock music, rap music, who start singing from the soul and singing about what's going on around them, the government doesn't like this. So much so that they manipulate music sales, they manipulate the music industry to the point where it was about 20 years ago, Rick Astley got to #1. And the song, I can't remember the name of the song, but it's just total drivel what he's singing about. the music is just horrible. But the same week, Status Quo sold 3 times as many records, and they never even got into the top 50. So Status Quo took the music industry to court and said, we sold 3 times more many records than Rick Astley, why are we not at number 1? And this was the first time that the music industry in Britain was exposed for what it was, that it was all fixed, and it wasn't based on record sales. What it was actually based on was government-backed program using people like Stock Aitken and Waterman to pump out this shit, and then using the media control that the government have over the media and saying, this is the kind of music you're going to play. And then it's bombarding the population with this trash, brainwashing the population. It brainwashes them that much that 4 years ago, there was a young girl called Sophie Lancaster was walking home with her boyfriend, and they got jumped on by a crowd of people because they were slightly different, because they were goths. Sophie lost her life, and the lad, he was in a coma for a while. I didn't know Sophie, but I knew people that knew her, and I have seen Sophie at different goth clubs and rock clubs. A nice girl. What drives people to pick on somebody else because they're slightly different? You know, we all get it. There's bullies in this world, but you can walk away and you can usually talk your way out of it, or if you were like me growing up, I'd just knock hell out of them. But that's the way I was. But what drives them to push it and push it and push it to the point where they kick hell out of them and kill them? And these lads who got done for Sophie's death actually laughed in court at the sentences they got. But I know people through the grapevine and whatnot are making these lads' lives a hard time in prison, because some of the people in prison knew Sophie, so they're giving these lads a hard time. So there's a little bit of karma going on there. But the government know this, and these PSYOPs programs, which the intelligence agencies are putting out, are very effective, and they are manipulating us. If you ever watch the news, and I'm sure you're aware of it, how the news is manipulated and how the imagery is given out to manipulate what the news is saying. There was one I was actually watching today on the TV, but then I went on YouTube and watched it and watched the difference. And there's a square in one of the cities in Libya at the moment where yesterday all the news, mainstream news like Fox, CBS, BBC, they were all there in this square reporting that the rebels had took over this town and Gaddafi was going to fall down. What was on YouTube today was an independent reporter reporting from the same square that no battle had ever happened in this city. So our governments are manipulating the press in a war of propaganda against Gaddafi's forces and what is actually going on in Libya. But they also were putting subliminal sound or music over it, and it's very easy to do and manipulate. If you ever watch TV and just turn the sound off and sit there and watch it and wonder what it's all about, and then switch it on and then re-watch it again, you suddenly get a different viewpoint. But if you switch the sound off again and then play music to it, different types of music, you suddenly get a different feeling about what you're actually watching. So the government know this, And one of the biggest manipulations they're doing, along with the barium they're spraying us with and the fluoride they're putting in the water to subdue us, is also getting us to sit down in front of a TV and watching crap like EastEnders, Brookside, Coronation Street. But listen to that theme music when it comes on. Feel what it's doing to your body. And it's like calming you down, but switching your mind off. You hear one of them theme musics and you just go, oh no, another one. But all of a sudden, 15, 20 million people across the country are sat there glued to the telly going, and they just switch off mentally. They become brain dead. And that's what the government wants. They want us all subdued and not thinking for ourselves. So when somebody like me comes along and starts challenging this, I become a threat to them. But the people before me, and one of the first ones I can think of is Jimi Hendrix. He broke away from mainstream pop music and he started creating his own kind of music. The guy was a genius. He had in his head what he wanted to play. He made sounds out of a guitar nobody had done before. He started singing about what he believed in and what he felt. And all of a sudden the guy was dead. The official version said he was a drug addict. He died of too much drugs and too much alcohol. I find that hard to believe. Next came Janis Joplin. She was the same. She ended up dead. Then Jim Morrison, he was the same. He started singing about things which were going against the government, going against the grain. He ended up dead. All from drinking too much alcohol, taking too many drugs. I don't think so. I mean, in the past I've taken drugs. I know my limit. These people know their limits. You all know your limits with drugs. You might not actually take drugs, but again, the brainwashing is, you'll probably drink alcohol, that is a drug. You'll probably drink tea, coffee, that contains caffeine, that's a drug. And if you think caffeine's safe, think again. There were 200 deaths in this country last year from caffeine, from people overdosing on tea and coffee. So caffeine's not that safe. Then you get these official versions saying, well, they were into rock music, they were a bit way out there, they were subversive. They're not people that are good for us. But there were people that were around at that time singing about their environment around them. These people were born out of the hippie movement, and the hippies were the first ones to really rebel against society. There were other ones, like John Bonham, the drummer of Led Zeppelin, again found too much drink, too many drugs. Again, I find that hard to believe. Just recently, Amy Winehouse, again another one, but if you start listening to her music a few months before she died, she was rebelling against the music industry and starting to sing what she wanted to sing. And all of a sudden she dies. Britney Spears, she was a protege of the pop music. Then she decided, no, I want to break away a little bit. She ended up being ridiculed. They said she was in a mental home and stuff like that, trying to assassinate her character. The biggest one for me, where it became very clear, and I've investigated this a lot, and I came to the conclusion that John Lennon was assassinated by the government. The Beatles came out of Liverpool with the Mersey beat. It was pop music. The government kind of went along with it because of what they were singing about. Where did that come from? Because of what they were singing about. It was just pop music, but it was like keeping